Hello，大家好，我是 Ferran Bertomeu Castells，或是北浪，但是今天我会讲英文，不好意思感谢翻译老师们then again, hello everybody, I'm Ferran Bertomeu Castells. This is Playing with Music Beyond Rhythm Games for Taipei Game Developers Forum 2025. You can find me online also under Fonter BC. I'm originally grew up near Barcelona in Spain, but I'm currently living in New Taipei City in Taiwan. This is my website, ferran.games, and my background is in computer science, graphics, and human-computer interaction, and I have been working in video games for the last 12 years. I've done freelance programmer. I've been a freelance programmer for many prototypes and games, some of them which have come out, including Disney's Spellstruck for Apple Arcade. But also I have done a lot of smaller projects and independent work and collaborations with different people, including many games that have to do with music, in the intersection between games and music. I find that interesting, and you can find many on itch.io, as well as some of them on Steam. So let's talk about music and video games today. From the very beginning, video games and music have been together because the earliest video games already had sound effects. Unfortunately, though, the term video games kind of ignores that. No, it should probably be audio video game, but I guess it's too late for that. And let me talk about what is a soundscape, because I might use this word in this presentation, which is this combination of the music, the background music of the game, and the sound effects of the song together. Like, I'm going to refer to it as like the soundscape, because like they become this whole audio space that comes out of the computer's speakers. But today we're here to talk about music video games. And yes, the first thing that comes to mind if I say music video games very likely will be rhythm games. Rhythm games like Parapa the Rapper here, that since 1996 already, it introduced this concept of like, there's patterns of buttons that you have to hit in the right time. And then you have to learn patterns that are being taught to you and repeat them, no? But then also 1997 already, Beatmania, Konami in the arcades. I'm pretty sure many of you have played some sort of music arcade game. Beatmania introduced first this concept of falling notes, of like raining notes that reach this line on the bottom, and then you're supposed to press the button, the correct button, when it reaches the line, and only when it reaches the line, no? And from there, like, it goes all the way. There's so many video games that really developed on this concept, no? From Guitar Hero all the way to the mobile screens. This Cytus is probably a very famous game here in Taiwan and all over the world, where instead of having physical buttons where you would put your fingers, now you have a whole touch screen, and then you can draw patterns and like hope that people hold their fingers in the screen. Because that's what you're doing, no? You are moving your fingers on the screen at the rhythm of the music, which in a way you're dancing with your fingers. And of course, you can not only dance with your fingers, you can dance with your whole body. And this is 1998 already. Konami, after Beatmania, they're like, well, since you're moving your fingers, why not dance with your whole body? And then now you're pressing the buttons with your feet. And there's been so many different kind of dancing video games since then, a lot of them on the arcade, but also at home. For the Just Dance series, one of the most successful, commercially successful video games of all time, where it's a very similar concept. There are certain moves that come in the screen, and then you have to do them at the rhythm of the music, following, in this case, what the people in the screen are dancing. And then rhythm games, we also understand things like Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is more than a rhythm game. It's a runner, it's a music runner or rhythm runner, where you're moving forward. No, there's many games like this, like Geometry Dash on mobile. But the main concept is similar, which is like there are collectibles on the screen that you have to move left or right, or you have to jump on the right times that have to do with the music, with the rhythm of the music. I will consider these rhythm games for the sake of simplicity, but I guess it's always a bit more complicated than that. And if you go to Steam or itch.io and then you search for rhythm FPS or any kind of combination of rhythm plus another genre, you will find like a pretty long list of video games that are actually trying to explore that space, no? And I want to highlight some of them before I move out of rhythm games and to talk about other games. Vectronome, for example, is one of my favorite rhythm platformers, where the level itself is dancing and the rhythm of the music, no? And every level has different music. It's this electronic music, very colorful, and then you can play with your friends too. And the whole point of the game is learning the patterns, the rhythmic patterns of the song, and how does the level react with that, no? You're dancing inside these levels that are also dancing. And I want to also mention just Shapes and Beats, which is a huge video game about just that, shapes and beats. It's a kind of platformer bullet hell, where you have to avoid the shapes. There is music, and then the shapes move at the rhythm of the music. And it's full of so many user-made levels. Like they have their own editor, and then you can share them with other players. And it's like a huge game. Another one that is interesting conceptually is a game like Patapon, which, by the way, they're releasing a new game right now on Steam soon, which is a similar concept. There is a series of buttons, like pata, pata, patapon, triangle, triangle, square, round in this case, no? And then you have to press them at the rhythm of the music in order for your little patapon, which is like this kind of little people, to attack or defend. And then if you do it correctly enough, the music changes and you go into fever mode, and it's this whole dynamic soundscape happening at the same time that you're playing and choosing the rhythms. Then there's this very famous and one of my favorites rhythm games too, about pressing the parry button at the right time, no? And then of course attacking sometimes. And no, of course, this is not a rhythm game. I'm joking, but I want to highlight this, that a big part of rhythm games is pressing buttons at the right time, and a big part of Sekiro or Nine Souls or many of these parry-heavy video games is about learning the patterns, which are rhythmic many times, of the bosses, and dancing with them, and then pressing the right buttons at the right time. Which is because many rhythm games are mostly action games, no? Because they are in real time and they're all about timing. You could say, and actually I'm not the only one to say this, that rhythm games are a subgenre of action games. And yeah, I want to mention this because, sure, rhythm games are fun and are very related to action games, and maybe that's why they're so popular and so many people is working on this. But music is not made only of rhythm. Rhythm is just one characteristic of music, no? What are other things? If it's not a rhythm game, what are other music games? That's where my question here started, when I started making music games and researching music games. Let me talk about some music games that are not rhythm, but they're definitely musical. For example, Ape-Out. The gameplay, like you as a player control this ape, and everything in this game that you do and that happens is musical. There's the drum set kicking. There's every time you kill somebody, there's a big cymbal hit, no? And the whole experience is extremely musical. But it's definitely not a rhythm game. It's a game where you have like total freedom, and that's why like they encapsulate it in this free jazz drum only solo, right? It's something I want to highlight, that music games sometimes are a bit hard to limit, because games, as I said before, video games in itself are all kind of musical, right? And then some other games like go full on generative music. for example, Niflas in Inglet and many of their other games have a generative algorithmic music being created constantly in real time. And then every action that the player does, every sound effect, actually corresponds and harmonizes with the current music that is being played at that moment. So then the playing, even though it's a platformer, jump platformer in a way, like a very weird game, Inglet, but it is very musical because everything, every sound effect and every musical that is generated on the game depends on so many real-time elements. And in these both cases, even though music is a very strong part of the experience, it's still more of a background. So I want to point another game out here that is New Super Mario Bros. On the Wii in this case. You all know of Mario, and you probably don't think this is a music game, right? But have you seen that? Have you seen how the enemies have stopped when the music reached that point? Again, no. Did you see? So in Super Mario, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, the enemies are listening to the music that you are also listening. So in a way, the music is also part of the world, and the enemies are dancing to it, no? Which is something that not many video games do. But I wanted to point out that the game worlds can acknowledge, can listen that, hey, there is music here, and this is the game's music, and it's part of the whole experience. The music doesn't have to be only a background music. It can also be like a living part of what is happening in the game. And then that makes the worlds become more alive and everything be more coherent, in my opinion. So let's talk about music games beyond rhythm games. No? What are other things that are part of the music that we can let players explore? Music toys is one such subgenre of music games that let you explore compositions. No? So what does that mean? For example, in Odata, you play with these little houses in this specific, and then you place them in these interactive toys, and then they make music. So you're building a kind of song, slowly and going through from toy to toy. You're playing with rhythms and melodies and building your own song. And every time you play is different. And at the end of the song, you can record it and put it into a cassette and also share it. No? Odata lets players explore what it means to make a song, like a layered song, with different elements and different instruments, and how do things go well together or not. I also made a kind of music toy called Poly 60, which is a rhythm exploration kind of game where you play with these beats that, in this case, like the lower line, there's one beat every 2 beats. The second line is one every 3 beats. The fourth line is one every 4 beats. And then you go increasingly up. And then this creates these rhythms, these patterns that you can explore. And then you can change the sound a bit and the music. And also, moreover, Poly 60 has a puzzle. So on the top, you're trying to feel the orange sky, and then that is like a randomly generated puzzle every time. So it is a toy for players to explore rhythms that are maybe a bit not as common as you would find in day-to-day life. There's also My Singing Monsters, which is a huge game on mobile, where you have these monsters that you can greet, you can take care of, and then each of them is an instrument. It's an instrument part in a bigger composition, which is this whole island of monsters singing together. And then the whole concept of this game is like each island contains a series of many monsters that you can grow and discover and like build into this huge orchestra that you decide who gets to play right now or who gets to wait. And then each level of My Singing Monsters, each update, they release several new islands, which are actually several compositions that contain all of these little monsters that are each of them singing their own part or doing their own rhythm. Which is a similar concept to this game like Incredibox, no? Which is a bit more simple, where there is people and then there's instruments. And then you drag the instrument to each of this person. And then you can also make them mute them. You can make them shut up or like make them play now. And then you explore this composition that is already composed by somebody, but then they give the players the instruments and the tools for them to play and explore the aesthetics, like what does sound good for the player, what are the combinations of melodies and instruments that you enjoy, no? Or much more literally, this is a game I made on a jam about using existing this is a jam that we were using copyright-free media from Spain. And then I wanted to make a game about exploring what does it mean to read a music sheet, no? Can we make a game about making the players read the music sheet? Because it's not something trivial, not everybody knows, but like, can we make a game out of this? And can we teach them how can you read this music sheet by playing a virtual guitar? And then there's Wii Music, which I will mention more than once. In Wii Music, there's this concept, the custom jam, where there is a selection of songs, and then you can explore playing them with your friends. Let's listen to this. Right? You can, in this game, choose an instrument and a song, and then just play a part of the song. And then after you have played this, performed this, you go into choosing another instrument, and then you just add instrument over instrument until you have like a complete band, like in this case. No, they're exploring the Mario theme. And it's very interesting. This is a very old game for the Wii, 2008. But like, there's so many different instruments, and there's a list of songs, of course, composed by Nintendo or like prepared by Nintendo, because each of the songs contains all the possibilities. It's designed in a way that any moment that you play inside this song or any instrument will somehow sound acceptably and like right with the song. So it is very interesting. There's a series of interviews that Nintendo has on their website about the making of Wii Music, which I highly recommend. So we were exploring whole compositions until now. But what about exploring only the melodies? What is a melody? What is a melody line? Let's go back to Wii Music. There's a part, like a game inside Wii Music called Instrument Improv, where you are this person in the middle, and then you choose an instrument and you explore what does it mean to improvise a melody or like a rhythm inside this song. And then the game supports you with like a band that is playing with you, and sometimes even like repeating the lines that you are doing. And also it, of course, creates these weird combinations of instruments that you otherwise wouldn't hear, like in a regular basis. No? So it's really a way for you to play with your solo abilities, and also to explore combination of instruments. I really like Wii Music, and I made this game highly inspired by it. This is Jamsterdam, a game I made with Ivan and Ian Ding, where you're this singer in the middle of the jazz trio that is constantly playing. Like the jazz music never stops. And then you sing up and down, and then we make it so that it always sounds in scale, correctly harmonious with what is being sung. And then you just explore, you just sing for fun, and then people come by and throw money at you because, of course, you're in Amsterdam and you're trying to survive. This is an arcade game, trying to pay the rent and pay the bills. and then eventually you run out of money because that's what happens. Yes, you cannot survive as a singer in Amsterdam. There's this other game called 10-Second Mixtape, currently on itch, but actually is coming to Steam, where when you play this game, you're assigned an instrument, and then you're assigned a band member that has already played this game and has recorded. This is an actual player. And then you have a 10-second looping mixtape that in this case has been played by somebody playing the bass that has played this note. And then you have to perform, you have to record on top of this. So you're live recording a melody that hopefully goes well with what the other player has played. So it's extremely simple, but then there's many instruments that in this case you don't even choose. Like it's like randomly assigned on the itch.io demo. But then, of course, if you don't like it, you have to clear and record a new version of the song that you like, a new performance. And then after this is done and you're happy, the game lets you choose other people's performance that for you to add to this tape. So you're slowly making this like looping tape with, in this case, 3 instruments. And then when you select one that you like, you get to hear the performance. And this is actually 3 different players that have played, and then they upload it on their servers, and then you can have your own band. And it's a very interesting multiplayer asynchronous experience. What else can we explore? One of the things, harmony, the relationship between 2 notes that are playing at the same time. No, do 2 notes sound good or this and that? On Blob Opera by David Lee, you basically drag these blobs and they sing different vowels and different notes. But then also the game harmonizes, gives you a harmony that goes well with what you're singing. I have some small artificial intelligence, let's say, that gives support to your singing, your exploration. Then there's Piano Bots, which is a game I made with Yan Ting-lo, where you have these robots that are playing melodies, and then you can shift their melodies up and down in this little keyboard. And then you have to figure out how to make them sound good, or like how to make them sound correctly, because like there is a harmonious way for these pieces, for these songs. Right? I think this is a very interesting puzzle game that I made for a jam, and I'm hoping to develop more in the future. But yes, and then these robots can also clash between each other. Yes. What else can we do? We can explore the lyrics. Of course, not all music has a voice in it or doesn't have lyrics in it, but many of them do. If any of you have played in Kentucky Road Zero, on the 3rd act, there's this scene where there is the band playing for you. And then you have the choice of how do you want these lyrics to continue. When you left me, I never should have met you. I wish we'd met before. And this lets the player explore, like, what does it mean to, how do I feel right now? Or like, how do I think that the song should go right now? And then when you choose, the band just plays what you chose. This concept has been used by other video games, like in Evergreen Blues by David Su and Dominic Starr. This is a musical game where, as you can see, you choose specific words, combination of words, and you make sentences, and then you hear the sentences. So it's like a choose your own musical lyrics.
And around, around we go, and around, around we go.
And then we reach this point of interactive music albums, which is from very beginning, from many years ago, in 2011 already, Björk released this app called Biophilia together with their album, you know, where inside this app there's like several mini games. Some of them are music toys, some of them are like visualizations of the songs from Björk of this album. Yeah, some of them are more or less interactive, but it's definitely like a very interesting work of an album made into a video game where each song is a different mini game. La Dispute also did a similar thing with their album Pilgrimage, where they worked with two media artists, Joost Egermort and Jorrit de Vries. And then each song is also a level inside this game, and this is more of an exploration walking simulator. And in the cases where there's lyrics of the songs, the lyrics sometimes appear on the ground too, so you're like walking through the song as you hear the song. And then of course there's Offscore, a game of songs, which is a game that I'm working with Yen Ting Lo, a Taiwanese singer-songwriter, where we're trying a similar thing, where all the songs that we have lyrics and have a story. They're talking about something. And we're trying to make games that somehow highlight the stories of the songs, no? We have a copy machine, and then what the song is talking about copying. So what can you do in the game? We place this player in the copy machine, and then the actions that they can do is that they can copy and they can walk. That's it. No? So we're trying to relate what the song is talking about and somehow highlight their stories, no, through the things that you do in the game. That's the main idea, and this is coming soon. You can wishlist on Steam. Then there's this one, other Teenage Blood is also an album where each song of the album of the Super Weeks is a different game. So it's like kind of narrative game where you go through your daily life. It's like a punk youth nostalgic kind of game. And then there's mini games for each of the songs. And then you go through a day and you have an adventure basically. And then some upcoming games like I Write Game Not Tragedies, where it's kind of like a rhythm game where you see the lyrics as they're being raining down onto you. And then there's also the whole narrative, and there's like a whole story about it. It's like an album as well. And then there's also another game that I made with Yenting and Nomi for a Taiwanese band called Bai He Hua, where we made one of their songs into a game, and then we make a game about the song. It's a Liak Gao, it's about catching the monkeys. So we made a game in Taipei about catching the monkey, and it's with their music playing on the background the whole time. And then there's 3 different sections, and we showcase each of the sections of the song. And yeah, as a closing remarks to end, if you're making a music game, definitely let players play with your music. I think one of the interesting things about video games is that they're interactive media. So there's always, I think, something enjoyable about being able to mess with things. And if you're making a music game, let me play with your music. That's something I really enjoy, and I think it's very inspiring for players too. And yes, rhythm is cool, but what about the other part of the music? What about the melody, harmony, timbre, structure, different sections of the song? Let me play with that, the dynamics. And definitely, if you're making a music game, check WeMusic out if you have the chance. And if you have music in your video game, as any video game should, I'm not the first one to say this, but please add the music and sound effects as soon as possible in your development cycle. the earlier you bring the music and sound into the games, the more you have the chance to really be inspired by it. And also the more you can let the game be influenced by this composer and by this music. I think there is a certain value to bringing a musician early and letting them bring their input, bring their art into the game. And you can design your games around, like make them listen to the music. If you do that, like if you make the games somehow react to the music, that really makes the world become much more alive. So in the end, be more like Koopas and a bit less like Mario. It's so simple, but so powerful. So yes, thanks for listening. And you can find the slides on this link and also scanning the QR code. I'm Ferran, and thank you for listening.